Good morning. Today we will discuss that once I created the table and I have the so many records. Now I want to change the definition. I want to change the column. I want to add the column. I want to change the data type. I want to add the constraint. I want to remove the constraint. Is there any other option for the same? Yes. You can use the alter table statement. What is alter table statement? It is used to change the definition. So you can say that it is a DDL command. So what is DDL command? Once it is executed, it is always permanent. No need to save your DDL command. It means once you fire any DDL command, no need to use the commit and roll back. Now the question is, I want to use the alter table statement. In which situation I can use the alter table statement? Then you can use the alter table statement to add the new column. You can use the alter table statement to modify existing data types. Even you can use the alter table to add constraints. Even you can use the alter table for the dropping the constraints, and even you can drop the columns if you don't want. So unnecessary column you can drop using the alter table statement. And even if you want that I want to rename the column, then you can rename the column name using the alter table. And suppose if you think that sir I want to rename the table name, then also you can rename the name of the table using the alter table. So these are the 7 ways to use the alter table statement. I want to create first simple table, and then I want to use the alter table statement to add the different constraint and drop the constraint and add the columns and all these things. So let's start with the alter table. For example, I have a simple table, that is create table, and the name of the table is, for example, test 1113. This is my name of the table. Now I have simple 2 columns. One is employee number and the data type is integer. I have another column, that is employee name, and data type is varchar2, for example 20. Now once the table is created, I want to alter the definition. How we can? Very simple. See here, the table is created. You can access your table definition using the describe command, or you can write directly DESC. SQL commands you can use abbreviated with the 4 character only. So instead of writing wall describe, you can use first 4 letter, and you can write DESC, name of your table. So it will display the structure of the table, and the structure of the table says that employee number and name, there are 2 columns are here. One column employee number have number 38 and name have worker to 20 is the size. Now I want to add the column. So how we can add the column? Very simple. You can use alter table name. So name of my table is test 1113. Then you can use the add clause to add the column. For example, if you think that sir I want to add a single column, then you can simply write here add salary number of 5. No bracket is required if you want to add a single column. So the column will be added. Now you can check describe test 1113. Now 3 columns are there: employee number, name, and salary. But if you think that sir I don't want to add a single column, I want to add the multiple column. Is there any different way? Yes. If you want to add multiple column, then you can use the bracket over here, and now you can add the 2 different column. For example, designation, that is, for example, varchar to 20, and I want to add one more column over here, and that is date of birth, date. Then you can use like this also. So it will do what? It will not add a one column, but it will add the two different columns. And here you can check the describe test 1113. Now you will be able to see that there are no two columns. You can add single column and you can add the multiple column with the multiple input also. So here the concept is what? If you want to add single column, then no bracket is required. If you write bracket, then it will not give you any error. You can use the parenthesis if you want to add more than one column. Now suppose sometimes people says that, sir, I want to change the definition. It means whenever you says that describe test 1113, it shows that the number has the number 38. I don't want to store here number 38. I want to store here number of 5 digit only. Is there any way to define this? Yes, you can change the size. Even if you says that, sir, I don't want to use the number over here, I want to use the varchar 2. So if you want to change the data type, then also you can, but the condition is data must not make the difference into the table. If your data having the number, and suppose if you are changing into varchar, if any constraint is violated, then it will give you any error. So here you can check alter table name. Now here you can use modify clause. In case of modify, the name of column must be available in the table. So name of column is employee number, and I want to change the size, right? So you can write here number of, that is 5 digit. It means I want to change the size over here. That is possible, you can, and here you can check describe. Now you will be able to see that the number of 5 is there, so you can change the size of the column. I'm not changing the data type, right? But suppose if you think that, sir, I want to change the data type, can I? Yes, you can. For example, I want to change the data type over here. Instead of number, I want to make it here varchar 2. Yes, you can. Suppose if you want to make the changes, then you can write like this. Now here you can check the data type of employee number is changed with the varchar to 5. But the condition is your table should be empty or your table data must not make the difference. Your data must not be truncated by changing the size and by changing the data type. So this is the way you can change the size of the column, or you can change the data type of the column. But in case of modify, your column must be exist into the table, right? In short, the employee number column must be there. Then and then I can change the data type. Then and then I can change the size. This is what the modify is. Using modify, you can add the constraint also. For example, suppose if you think that, sir, there are no constraint available in this particular table because you have just created the two columns, then you have added the one column, then you have added two different columns, then you have changed the data type, but you have not given any constraint, right? So using modify, you can give the constraint also. For example, if you says that, sir, I want to give the number of 5 and I want to make it here primary key, can I? Yes, you can. So using alter, you can change the data type. Using alter, you can add the constraint also. If you are using the modify clause of alter. So if you are writing here describe, then it will give you that it is a not null, right? And here you can say that the primary key is added on this particular column. So you can add the primary key over here. Now suppose if you think that, sir, I don't want some column, so can I drop the column? Yes, you can drop the column. For example, if you think that, sir, I don't want the date of birth column, that is DOB, so can I drop the column? Yes, you can drop the column using alter table. So alter table name, simply you can write drop column name. And which column you want to drop? I want to drop the DOB. So you can simply copy this and you can check over here. See, alter table, table name, drop column DOB. So this particular column will be dropped. And here you can check that the DOB is not available in this particular table. So using drop column close of alter table, you can drop the column. Now suppose if you think that, sir, I want to drop the primary key. Can I? Yes, you can. So if you want to drop the primary key, then you can directly write here alter table, name of the table, drop primary key. So whenever you write drop primary key, your primary key on the column that is employee number will be dropped, right? And if you check over here, then there will be a no not null constraint available on employee number. Why? Because the primary key is dropped. You all knows that we can define only one primary key per table, and that is the reason why you can directly drop the primary key. But what if you want to drop the specific constraint, right? Suppose if you want to add constraint, suppose if you want to drop particular constraint, how we can drop the constraint other than the primary key. Suppose if you want to drop the primary key, then you can directly write drop primary key. But if you want to drop a check constraint, then how we can do? Very simple. Let me add the check constraint on the column that is a salary. So whenever you want to add the check constraint, you can write here alter table, name of the table. Now my name of the table is what? That is test 1113. Now I want to add the constraint. So I can write here add constraint. Now constraint name you can give. The constraint name is check, that is test salary. So I want to check that the salary of the test table, that the salary should be greater than or equal to 2000. So in short, minimum salary must be 2000. So I want to check this particular constraint. I want to add this. See here, if you add this particular constraint, right, I want to add the check keyword. So I need to write here alter table, table name, add constraint, constraint name, then constraint type. So I need to write here check. So I'm simply writing here check. Whenever you copy paste, see here the table add constraint, constraint name, it will add the constraint that the check salary should be greater than or equal to 2000. Now what is the biggest advantage? Now you will not be able to insert the record which has the salary less than 2000. So if I am inserting the record into test 1113, and if I am writing here values, right, now I am inserting the values, that is employee number 1, name of the employees, for example Arjun. Now I am writing here salary 1999 and designation is professor, for example. See, the check constraint violet is a check test salary. So I will not be able to insert the record, but I will be definitely able to insert the record over here. If the salary is greater than or equal to 2000, the record will be created. But remember student, sometimes people doing what? Sometimes people are doing like this, that they are not creating the constraint first. They are first inserting the record and then they are creating the constraint. So it will not allow you to do the same thing. For example, let me give you an example. Suppose I want to drop this particular constraint. It means I don't want this constraint, that is test salary. So you can write here alter table, table name, drop constraint, constraint name. So what is the name of constraint? That is the check test salary. So whenever you write like this, your constraint will be dropped. And once your constraint is dropped, now you can insert the record. For example, name of the person is Keyur, and now I am inserting the value that is 1800. It will allow me to insert the record. Why? Because constraint is dropped. But people are doing what? After inserting the record, now they are creating the constraint. Remember, if you are creating the constraint, it will give you an error. If you are creating a constraint, it will give you an error. Why? Because the check constraint is violated. Why check constraint is violated? because the data available in the table is containing the value less than 2000. For example, if you write here, then you can see that the record KUR has the salary which is less than 2000. So there are two chance to create the constraint over here. Either you can delete the record of KUR, or you can increase the salary of KUR, or you can make here that the check salary should be greater than or equal to 1800. Why? Because it is all about a consistency. Whenever I say that the constraint is required, so whenever I say constraint, it means the all the data previously stored or after stored. In short, the data contained in the table must violate the rule. If you are inserting before or even if you are inserting after, all the data have to fulfill this particular rule. If this particular rule is followed by each and every record, then and then the constraint will be created. So if I am writing here greater than or equal to 1800, right? If I am writing here greater than or equal to 1800, it will be created. Why? Because all the records available in this table have the salary greater than or equal to 1800. See, right? But you cannot if you are writing greater than or equal to 2000. Why? Because the data available in the table is violating the rule. So either you need to make the changes over here. In short, whenever you write the constraint, in short, if you are creating a constraint before, if you are creating a constraint after, the data available in the table will be always consistent, accurate, and it will be perfect. Why? Because whenever you establish the constraint, it will check the data available into the table also, as well as this constraint is applicable to newly added record also. If you look here carefully, then I want to add the constraint, I just drop the constraint. But what if I don't know the name of the constraint? For example, let me add the constraint on the column. For example, let me add the column. Suppose if I am writing here, that is alter table, that is test 1113. Now I am adding the column. So I am writing here the name of the column is CD. Now the name of the column CD having the varchar 230. And now I'm writing here check, but I'm not giving any name to the constraint. And I'm writing here check CT in. So I will be checking for what? I'm checking for city should be from Rajkot, Surat or Ahmedabad. So what to do in this particular case? Suppose if you are creating a constraint like this, if you are adding the constraint, your table will be altered. See, table is altered. What I did, I added the column with the check constraint. I added the column with the check constraint. So whenever I write describe test 1113, you will be able to see that the CD column is added over here. Now the constraint is also there. Suppose if I am trying to insert the record into this particular table, so I'm just trying to insert the record, and that is, for example, 3 number KUR. Instead of KUR, I'm writing here Kuldeep. Suppose the salary is 2200. This is dollar and per day. Now I want to insert the value in CD. Suppose I'm writing the CD, that is, for example, Vadodara, right? So it will not allow me, and it will give me an error that the check constraint violated. But which check constraint violated? How can I know that the which check constraint is? But if you know the constraint name over here, you can drop the constraint using this if you want to, right? So if you want to drop the constraint, then you can write like this: alter table, table name, drop constraint, constraint name. Now name of the constraint is sys underscore C0018,108, but I want to know this check constraint is about which, and which column contains this particular constraint. So you can simply write here describe user underscore constraints table. So this is the table available in Oracle user underscore constraints. That is the table available in every user, right? So now here you can get the constraint type, you can get the constraint name, even you can get the search condition based on the table name. So let me write here select. I request everyone to take the screenshot of the same. Why? Because it is the most used thing. Constraint name, constraint type, and search condition from user underscore constraints, where table name is equal to, that is test 1113. Whenever you write like the query like this, you will get that there are two constraints available in this table. The one constraint is ch underscore test cell, having the condition that is check the salary greater than or equal to 1800. Another constraint is sys underscore c0018108. The condition is city in Rajkot, Surat and Ahmedabad. And once you get this, now you can get the idea that the error available over here that was related to, for example, if I'm writing here Vadodara, then it is giving me an error that is sys underscore c00181008 means I have to check the city, that is Rajkot, Surat or Ahmedabad. So now I will be more careful, and if I provide here Rajkot, then it will allow me to insert the record, right? And suppose if you think that I want to drop the constraint based on the name, then you can, right? Suppose if you think that I want to drop the constraint, then you can write alter table name drop constraint. Now you can give the name of the constraint, that is sys underscore c 00181008. Now your constraint will be dropped, right? And suppose if you are writing the same query again, that is the constraint name, constraint type, such condition from user underscore constraints, where table name equal to test 11113. Now you will be able to see that the only one constraint available in this particular table, and that is the chk underscore test underscore cell, right? I request everyone to take the screenshot of the same. Why? Because many times we want to know that the constraint is violated, but it is violated on which column, it is violated on which table, it is violated in which condition. At that time you can use the user underscore constraints and you can check that the check constraint is violated over here. Now suppose if anybody think that, sir, I want to change the name of the column, can I? Yes, you can. For example, describe test 1113. Now, suppose anybody says that, sir, instead of DESG, I want to make it here designation, right? So if you want to make the column name, if you want to change, then you can write alter table name, and you can write here that is a rename column. Alter table name, rename column. Now old column name, so old column name is DESG to designation. You can write like this, you can copy the things, you can paste over here, and now you can check that the instead of DESG, now it is designation. So you can make the changes into the column name, column data type, column size, column constraint, and even you can add the column, even you can drop the column, even you can drop the constraint. But anybody from you says that, sir, I don't want to change the name of column, I want to change the name of table. Can I? Yes, you can. Suppose if you think that I want to make the changes of the table name, so you can write alter table name, rename to. Now you can give the name of the table that you want to change. So new table name is what? For example, EMP101. So my new table name will be now, instead of test 113, it will be employee 101. Now if you write here describe test 11113, it will give you an error that the table is not exist, right? But if you write here describe EMP101, then you will get the definition over here, right? So basically there are 7 clauses that you can check, that you can add the single column, you can add the multiple column one. You can modify the structure, you can modify the data type, even you can modify the size, even you can give the constraint using modify. Second. Third one is you can drop the column. Fourth one is you can add the constraint. Fifth one, you can drop the constraint. Sixth, you can rename the column. And seventh one, you can rename the table. Now, if you look carefully in the alter table definition, then you will get the idea that what is the syntax. So, our simple syntax is there, alter table, table name. So, here, alter table, name of the table. So, on in which table you want to do the same thing, right? So, here you can give the name of the table. Now, the wonderful thing is here you can use add, you can use modify, you can use drop. Suppose if you are using now using add, you can add the column. Using modify, you can change the definition. Using drop, you can drop the column. Using add, you can add the constraint. Using drop, you can drop the constraint. Even using modify also, you can add the constraint, or you can use the rename clause over here. Now you need to understand well, and that is what, suppose if you are using add, then the column definition is required. If you are using modify, then the column must exist into table, and then you can give the size. If you are using drop, then column name. If you can even add the primary key and you can drop the primary key. For example, suppose if you think that I want to add the primary key on table, can I? Yes, you can. You can simply write alter table, table name. So now my table name is employee 101. Alter table, table name. Add primary key. Now here you can define the column list. And wonderful thing is what the primary key defined at the alter table definition will always be the table level, and that is the reason why you can directly give the composite primary key over here. Suppose if you think that I want to give the primary key on the two column, that is the employee number and designation, then you can write here like this, employee number and designation. So this primary key will be composite and it will be the table level, and you can check this. How we can check this? Select constraint name. Now this primary key also have the name, so you can get the constraint name, you can get the constraint type. So constraint type is primary key from user underscore constraints, where table name is equal to employee 101. And now you can check that the constraint, inbuilt constraint is created over here, that is sys underscore c 0018109, and the constraint is primary key, and it is at the table level. Suppose if you want to drop the primary key, directly you can write alter table, table name, drop primary key. Remember students, whenever you are dropping the primary key at that particular time, no need to give the constraint name. Why? Because primary key is always one in one table. So we can define maximum one primary key. So whenever you write the table name and drop primary key, it will drop the only one primary key. So no name is required in this case. But if you want to drop the check constraint, then you cannot do like this, alter table, table name, drop check. We cannot do like this. Why? Because there are multiple check constraints available into the table. So here you need to use drop constraint, constraint name, that is chk underscore test underscore cell. So my both the constraints will be removed. And now if you check the constraint from this particular table, then it will give you that no record found. It means no records selected. So you can drop the constraint by constraint name. But if it is a primary key, then directly you can drop the primary key. You can add the primary key. Even you can add the constraint. Even you can drop the constraint. So this is what all about the alter table. Using alter, we can add the column, we can drop the column. We can add the constraint, we can drop the constraint. We can rename the column, we can rename the table. And we can modify the structure, we can modify the column data type, we can modify the column constraint, we can add the constraint using the modify if it is not there. And this is the example for the same. Using modify, we can add the constraint also. But better practice is give the constraints with the constraint name. And whenever you give the constraint name, then you will be able to easily drop that particular constraint by constraint name. One of the other thing is what? Suppose if you think that I want to add the column, can I add the default value? Yes, you can. For example, suppose if you write here describe employee 101, right? Now there are two records available over here, that is in employee 101. Three records are there and the city is Rajkot. Now I want to add one more column over here and the name of the column is, for example, that is country. So I'm writing here alter table table name, add. Now I'm writing here country, right? COUNTRY country, varchar to 30. Now I'm writing here that the default country is India. See, what is the biggest advantage of creating this, adding this particular constraint? You can check your data. The old data will be filled with the India, right? This is the one of the biggest advantage. Whenever you add the column using alter, and whenever you add the default value, then your whenever the column will be added, the default value will be added to the all the data is available in the table. But if you are inserting the record in this particular table, and suppose if you are inserting directly the value, suppose if you are specifying, then the default India will not be inserted. For example, number 4, for example, Jatin, right? Salary, for example, 2400, right? AP, right? And the city is, for example, Surat. And suppose if I am writing the country is UK, I need to write here values close. Suppose if I am writing values close, then the record will be inserted, right? So in which situation the default value will be inserted? The default value inserted if and only if you are writing here 5, and suppose if you are writing default keyword, then your default value will be inserted. One. Second thing is if you are skipping that particular column. For example, employee number, employee name, and salary. I'm just passing these three things. So 6, name is, for example, this one. So if you are skipping the column, right? If you are skipping the column, then also your default country value will be inserted. But if you are specifying, then that particular value will be inserted. But one of the good thing is what? The good thing says that whenever you alter the table with the default option, then and whenever you are creating the column, then this particular value will be filled in all the data available in the table. Now what happens, suppose if you think that, sir, can we add the foreign key over here? Yes, you can add the foreign key, you can add the check constraint, even you can add the any constraint that you want to add. The same way that I added the constraint name and check, the same way you can add the foreign key, even you can add the unique constraint and all this. Let me show the same thing. For example, suppose if you think that, sir, I want to add the foreign key. Then how we can do this? So first I just want to create a one table, that is department 101 for example, and I have department number is the column. So I'm just writing here number of, for example, 5 digit, and the key is primary key. Now I have not only department number, I have department name. For example, department name is 30. Now I want to create this particular table. Now I want to give the constraint, that is foreign key, using the alter table in employee 101 table. So how we can do this? Simple. You can add the column using alter table. So you can write here alter table, that is the name of the table is 101. You can write here add, that is department number of 5. You can directly write here references on department 101. So what it will do? It will add the references on the column, and that will be 101. But what happened in this particular case? The reference will be added. So, but the reference is added using the alter table add. Can I use the add constraint and can I add the foreign key? Yes, you can. For example, see, if you write here select constraint name, constraint type from user underscore constraints, where table name is equal to, for example, employee 101, then you can see that there is a referential integrity, that is the constraint is created over here. But you think that, sir, I don't want to create the constraint at the time of adding the column, but I want to add the constraint using the add constraint definition. Can I? Yes, you can. So first you can simply drop this particular constraint, that alter table, name of the table, for example, 101, drop constraint name. So name of the constraint is what? That is sys underscore c 0018115. So now what happened? This constraint will be removed. Now if you think that, sir, I want to give a constraint that is in employee 101, right? So how we can do this? So very simple, alter table name, then you can write add constraint name. So my name of the constraint is, for example, foreign key on department in table 1 employee 101. Now here you can define a foreign key. So you want to give a foreign key on which column? That is on department number of, that is my employee 101. And where you want to give the reference? So you can write here references on, that is department 101. And here now you can specify the column of department 101, and that will be department number. So this will be the table level foreign key that I defined. Now suppose if you run this particular select constraint name, constraint type from user underscore constraints, where table name is equal to employee 101, then you will be able to see that there is a one referential integrity is created over here. So not only check, not only primary key, you can add the foreign key using the alter table also. Suppose if you think that, sir, I want to add the column over here, that is employee 101, add, and I want to give the mobile, that is number of 10 digit, right? Now I forgot to put the unique constraint over here, right? So can I add the unique constraint after adding the column? Yes, you can. You can simply write alter table name, add constraint name. For example, name of the constraint is unique on employee mobile. So now you can mention the unique on which column, that is mobile number. You can simply copy this and you can check that the constraint will be added. So after this you can add the constraint. So you can add the constraint name foreign key, you can add the constraint primary key, you can add the constraint that is unique key, you can add the constraint that is check. So primary key, unique, check, and foreign key, all these four clause we can define using alter table add constraint definition. But remember, we cannot give the not null constraint at the table level. So using alter table, we cannot give the alter table and add constraint that will be not null. But if you want to give the not null constraint, for example, in this DPT 101, I want to give the not null in department name, then you can use the modifier. So you can write here alter table department 101. For example, if you describe here department 101, then there is a no not null on the department name column. So you can write alter table name. Now you can use the modifier and you can give the name of the column department name. You can make the same data type, same size, but now you can add the not null. So whenever you write like this, now here you can simply copy the same and you can paste and you can check that the not null constraint will be added. So if you want to add the not null constraint, you can add the not null constraint using modify, but it will be column level constraint. Suppose if you want to add a not null using add constraint, then you cannot. Why? Because not null cannot be given at the table level. We can give the not null constraint at the column level only. So in short, you can use the alter table to add the different constraints. You can add the foreign key, you can add the primary key, you can add primary key, you can add foreign key over here, even you can add a check constraint that I used over here, that is add constraint, that I want to give the add constraint name and I want to give the unique key, then I can use the unique key also. Suppose if you want to add the check constraint, then also you can add like this, say here add constraint name check. So you can add the check constraint, you can add the primary key, even you can add the foreign key, even you can add the unique key, and if you want to give the not null, then you can give it the modifier. So this is all about the alter table option. That's it from my side. Thank you very much.